This is Printed and Pressed. I'm Chris.
And I'm Andrew.
And I'm Will. Will was supposed to be here. He read the book.
He's
he liked the
feeling
book,
sick.
but I think he was a little sick from the scenes in this book. I made him a little
Yeah.
creeped him out. Didn't want to get
Gave him a fever.
something like that. A fever he couldn't deny. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, gosh.
So you have the syllabus for how we do this podcast, Andrew. So why don't you tell me what I need to do first?
We're going to introduce the book first.
The book is called Disclosure by Michael Crichton. I've been corrected on this. I like to say Michael Crichton, which is not correct. But I like to say that. It's more fun. It's like he's a cricket or a frog or something. But Michael Crichton, pour one out for Michael Crichton. He died relatively young, in his 60s, I believe.
Yes.
And it was because of, I think, cancer. So, pour one out for Michael because he's a very good author, wrote a lot of good stuff. You've probably heard of Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, and all that fun stuff.
You can
That's
see
not
some
what
of
this
his
is.
stuff across the top of the screen right now, too.
That is absolutely not what this book is, though.
This is not that.
Although
that
apparently, according to people, because this is the only one I've read by him, actually, so Jurassic Park will be one we read in a little bit, but apparently he writes very closely, stylistically, between the books. But the reason I picked this is because my wife told me I would like it. That's actually why.
So, this book, Disclosure, it has 446 pages if you get the mass production paperback.
According to this, 464. What did you just say?
446. There's not that many. No, there's an afterword which would bring it to 449, but it's not.
My copy is 497 pages.
I don't. Then fine. I guess there's discrepancies here about what the
The
page
one we're
count
looking
is.
at on Amazon here, the mass market on Amazon. For
Okay, I literally
$7.48
have that exact copy.
claims that it's 464 pages.
It's not though, so don't listen to it.
But I will tell you what, for being as long as it was, it did not feel like it took me very long.
No,
to read
he definitely writes in a very fast-paced style.
I never felt like it was taking me a long time to get through this. Like some books you're like reading and you're like, oh my gosh.
Well, he structures everything as if it jumps. The chapters are really short. And
each interaction gets its own chapter.
Yeah. So he jumps between interactions, which makes it seem to go much faster because he doesn't do travel between, really. He just, next interaction.
He does not spend a lot of time describing the scene necessarily.
Well,
unless it's relevant.
Everything takes place. It's like there's
4 days.
It goes by the days.
4 days.
Yeah, it takes place in 4 days, and he's just jumping from interaction to interaction.
Yeah.
So if you have attention deficit disorder, you can read this book. It is the equivalent of going through the different reels on Instagram or TikTok.
It's not.
Yes, it is. It's just like that in book form.
No, not really, but that's
a little bit. It jumps from interaction to interaction.
It never sticks with one scene for too long.
Yeah. I mean, can you think of an interaction that was longer than like 5 pages?
Yeah, there's more than one. There's a couple chapters that were a little longer, but
okay.
The
average interaction is like 3 pages.
Fair enough. But, okay, so what is this book about? So the main theme of what's going on here is a merger. There's a merger going on, and
company merger.
People's positions are changing, and one character, the main character, the one that we're following, Mr. Sanders, Tom Sanders, believes he is next in the line to get head of the division he works in because he's kind of been filling in for that as it is.
Yeah.
And it comes to find out, nope, he ain't getting that. It's his ex-girlfriend from like a decade ago who's slowly but surely revealed to be a sinister character. And towards the end of the book, you find out the reason she does what she does.
Well, don't jump the shark yet. Come on.
Okay. So early on in the book, she has meetings with all division heads. But Tom, she says, hey, why don't you come later on? Like 6 o'clock, we'll have some wine, discuss the old times. And immediately I was like, red flag, don't go, don't go. Nope, he goes anyways. And as soon as he gets there, he finds out that she had more in mind than just a.
Yes, there was some entrapment of sorts.
She pulled what normally people would think of being
Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, Harvey Weinstein type of situation where she's like, "Hey, you want to work for me? We need to have some fun while we're doing it." If you know what I mean. And it turns into what Andrew describes as a smut scene.
Yes, it was definitely a smut scene. If you like that type of literature, that's some steamy pages right there for you.
But the whole time, because Tom is married with children,
yep.
The whole time this is going on, he keeps kind of inching away, keeps kind of saying like, no, this is not going to work for me. I'm married. And she just keeps pushing the issue, and he feels like he cannot leave because he might lose his job.
I mean, in fairness, he kind of goes along with it for 2 seconds.
A split second,
but a split second, he is on board again because you gotta remember she is an ex-girlfriend that she was
playing with him emotionally and tormenting him. But the thing is like. And I've read up on this a little bit. Like, psychologically, at some point, no matter what you try to do to stem yourself away from something like this, like, you might find yourself somewhat into it, even if you're not at all.
Yeah. No, for sure.
And so he finds himself kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place where his boss is basically saying, you sleep with me or you sleep with the fishes.
Yeah. And up until this point, too, no one really knows exactly how she got this position. They just know that she's a
That doesn't come out till like the very end.
Right. They just know that she's a personal favorite of the boss, but they don't think she's sleeping with him at all. They think it's more of a father-daughter type relationship.
And it does come across that way for most of the book.
Yeah, and I mean, the boss did have his daughter die. So.
And honestly, throughout the entire book, his opinion that diversifying the workplace is the best bet never changes, despite everything that happens.
Yeah,
which is like, okay.
Well, I think in this book too, it does.
It's also the 90s.
Well, it doesn't. Yeah, this is taking place in the 90s. It's early days of offshoring stuff. It's very much new tech. Like this company specializes in DVD player, CD players.
CD drives, actually.
CD drives, which, DVD players basically at the same time. Because it's talking about,
they're talking about
playing video and how fast you can do it.
Honestly, some of the technology he's describing in this book, at the time that he wrote the book, would have been cutting edge, and he would have had to be in the know to figure out some of these things.
Yeah, no, I mean, the stuff he is talking about was pretty big tech at the time, so. Which
was really fascinating to go back and read about, especially him kind of suspecting how VR might work back in the 90s. That was pretty cool.
No, the 90s they loved VR back then.
Well, they tried. They tried VR.
They tried. I mean, they've always been trying. We're just repeating the 90s again with Oculus and all that stuff that they're trying to do.
Except much better looking.
Yeah, I mean, okay, in this book they have their big technology breakthrough that they're trying to do is exactly what every Meta commercial is for the virtual workplace.
Well, they actually turned the VR sections of this book into film for the movie.
Oh, really?
So it looked pretty bizarre. Because it shows, because remember how they talk about, actually we'll get to that later, but basically the whole thing about blurring the face because of the way things worked in the VR system. They had that in the movie, and I was like, wow, this is pretty good for the 90s CGI. Anyways, so basically after this interaction, Tom has to go back to his wife that night, and as he's walking out after he basically tells her to F off, I'm not doing this, essentially. She goes, I'll effing kill you. And he's like, oh my gosh, and he leaves. And he has interactions with the secretary before that because she closes the door and then leaves.
Well, she brought a box of condoms for
and she's and the wine. Yeah. And he saw the cleaning lady on his way out. So he saw two people, and that was it. That's pretty much the whole interaction besides his ex.
And his phone is dead.
What was her name? Melissa? Was not Melissa?
Betsy Ross.
No, the secretary is Betsy Ross.
Yeah. They don't tell you the name of the cleaning lady, man.
No. The name of his ex-girlfriend. I'm trying to remember what her name was.
Oh,
Meredith.
Yeah.
Meredith Blackburn, right?
No, that's the lawyer.
That's the lawyer. Meredith Johnson. Johnson, that's right. So Meredith Johnson, Tom Sanders. Very, very
generic names.
Generic names on purpose.
So that you can't find out who they are.
And all the while,
this is based on a real story.
Yes, it is. And all the while this is going on, in the background, during this merger, they find out they have a problem with the CD drives. And that's the main thing Tom is concerned about throughout all of this is how are we going to justify it or how are we going to fix it?
It's the catalyst for every interaction that occurs with the sexual harassment, basically. And then it's
because before the sexual harassment, they were discussing the CD drives, what the issue was.
Yeah.
And actually, now I'm thinking about this. That was pretty sly of her to bring that up in that little interaction to try and figure out the problem. Because when you find out later why, it makes so much more sense.
And then so he goes home, right?
Yeah.
And then
he doesn't tell his wife.
He doesn't tell his wife right away. In fact, he argues with her instead. And then,
I was like, ugh.
And then the next day, in the meanwhile, this whole time, she has set him up, right, to.
Well, at first, when he did that, I kind of was like, I get it. I don't tell her about it. Then I was like, actually, he probably should have just told her.
No, I'm talking about something different.
Oh, okay.
Meredith sets him up to be late to the meeting the next day.
Yes, because she calls and tells his wife
the wrong meeting time in the morning. So he's late, and then when he's late, she uses that as an excuse not to be aligned with him going into the meeting on what direction they're going to take in discussing the issues with production.
Right.
And then she makes it look like he's undermining her as an additional excuse to get him fired.
Right, or transferred.
Well, transferred to a place that they're trying to sell.
Yes, to spin off and
effectively
shut down.
Fired. And also rob him of his merger shares. Because they're going to try to
spin off into the IPO shares.
Because they're going to try to make an IPO and make a ton of money off of this company.
Right.
The story then goes where Sanders goes and gets an attorney who he has heard is really good at sexual assault cases.
Right.
Right after they propose the transfer to him, like he doesn't have any choice, right? He decides to fight it. And then the rest of the story is effectively him working with that attorney, trying to dig up all the dirt they can, get interviews with people, right?
Right.
And they make a really strong case that is so strong, it basically proves everything, his side of the story.
Which is really hard to do in a case where it's a man versus a woman.
And I don't want to give away. I know this book has been out forever, but I don't want to give away the main thing that they discover. I feel like we should leave some mystery to the reader.
You think so?
Unless you want to, the main hook on how they can prove it all.
Well, so I think it's important that we at least discuss it.
Okay.
Because
I guess it's important to discuss how they prove it all, just because
it was really creative the way he came up with this, and I was like, wow, I would not have thought to do that with a book like this.
Well, because this is an issue. I guess we should discuss it just because it is actually an issue today, given how laws can be. So the way they are able to prove his side of the story utterly and completely is he was in the middle of a phone call at the time.
Right.
And he calls the wrong number and is on the phone with the voicemail leaving a message when she starts the whole process of sexually harassing him. And she causes him to drop the phone without turning it off. So the entire time everything's going on, his phone is recording the entire interaction on someone's voicemail. And
hold on, we gotta go back to the very beginning. The first phone call he gets when he gets in on the first day before any of this happens, he finds out that his head of Malaysian production, the Malaysian side, Jafar, is sick or cursed and cannot talk to him, which And then the whole time this is going on, like the lie about Jafar keeps getting more outlandish. And finally,
It's not
at
outlandish.
the end,
It's not outlandish.
You find out that Jafar was really told to take a vacation so that Tom could get set up for.
Okay, I disagree with you that it's outlandish. Just because out there, you never know.
I'm saying, like the curse and the hospital. Anyways, the lie
Chris,
keeps
voodoo
growing.
can kill people. If you believe in it,
the lie keeps growing. Let's put it that way, because it is a lie, and we find out it's a lie.
It's a lie. It keeps growing. I'm just saying.
I'm not saying that can't happen. I'm saying that the Jafar thing was a lie. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, it's a lie. So they go through all of this. They get that voice recording. They have all the evidence.
And then they get a video recording of Meredith Johnson.
Well, wait.
Go ahead.
That's still not enough to get them to get rid of her.
Right. They want her to stay and him to stay, and they'll pay him.
They're going to keep her, and they'll keep him, but he's going to have to work, which they then develop a second method to try to get rid of him, which is to show he's
issues on him.
Incompetent. So if they can't fix the drives, they're going to say it's his fault and then come up with a different. They already know what the cause is, right? But he's been locked out of the system, so he's not able to actually find out directly.
And all of his people that were working on it are out to lunch with a conference.
Yeah,
so he can't even talk to them.
So they're trying to hide from him that the issue's been resolved already because they already knew what it was. And he's going to say incorrect things in the meeting in front of the merger company's executives, right?
Well, no, they're going to say that he's lying.
Yeah, they're going to say he's lying and incompetent.
So they had made an agreement with him that as long as he did his job and didn't lie.
And it's also about competency.
Right. And proved that he's competent, that he could keep his job. And they added those stipulations like literally 1100th hour. So his lawyer's like, they did this on purpose. You're going to get F tomorrow if we don't solve this tonight.
Basically. And in the meantime, while he's preparing his presentation, he realizes that they must have solved it. Otherwise, the engineers wouldn't be gone.
Right.
And he finds a way using a backdoor
because
method.
the virtual reality is in beta, and so it has access to all the files in the system.
So
that's when they discover that Meredith's been having a little affair with a guy from the merger company.
Yeah, they find out that she was the reason, that she was the actual reason why the drives weren't working, because she made changes to the production line.
And she was the reason the merger was on.
Yeah, for political reasons, though, she made changes to the drive production, right?
She had to make agreements with the Malaysian government, and they wanted more jobs on the lines. They had to change some things, which involved pressing the circuit boards by hand, which is not advisable.
Yes.
As well as saving money
air filters
by removing air filters.
So they did a bunch of things like that, and
she herself signed off on it without Tom's knowledge.
Yeah, they never keyed him in, and he was in charge of production.
Right. So as soon as he examined some of the prototypes coming out, some of the production line CD players coming out, he immediately, after realizing all these things that occurred, saw that there was dirt in the boards, or in the areas of the hinges, which was causing a bad electrical connection.
He saw the inconsistencies. It wasn't. It was not a consistent.
Oh, and they changed suppliers for the hinges. That's why they were low quality hinges. Yeah.
So this book really in the files that they were able to find, they were able to get all of the evidence that she had done these changes, and that is.
And Jafar sent a video.
Yes, because they weren't able to get that data except from Jafar, because he eventually calls.
Right.
And
at the very last minute, he's like, "Hey, I just want to let you know this before your meeting tomorrow."
Yeah, basically, it's very grace of God type of timing.
Yeah, because that was the last piece of the puzzle. Without that,
because he couldn't get that evidence because she had already deleted it.
She was actually, the best part about that was, the only reason she was put on Malaysian TV was because
she was a woman.
They wanted to blame the woman on the Malaysian TV, because they don't want to blame the guy in charge of the factory.
Yeah, and the the other thing too, though, this book covers a wide range of topics that you wouldn't have really thought of at the time.
Right.
With the focus being on the sexual harassment thing, it also is covering outsourcing
Yeah,
and
to a degree.
Yeah, and the problems with producing things overseas.
Yep.
So, like for example, they're talking about Malaysia in here, and it's a Muslim country, and they don't want an integrated assembly line. They have, if you're not aware, Malaysia has special treatment towards different ethnic groups. So they also wanted more ethnic Malay workers versus the specialized Chinese workers that were there. They wanted a bunch of different caveats and obviously more people working. So they
wanted the factory to have the maximum number of workers.
They didn't want a high tech factory. Basically, was the problem, because it didn't hire enough people. So you had all of these issues, and then the company made these compromises, which impaired the assembly and impaired the quality of the device. And I remember late 90s, early 2000s, a lot of things that you got like that would have problems from time to time.
Actually,
companies had growing pains.
The most interesting part of the conclusion of this book was that even with evidence and everything going against
she still didn't get fired.
She would not have gotten fired if she hadn't lost her cool in the merger meeting. No, she did. She got fired.
She didn't get fired.
Yes, she did.
No, she didn't.
Yes, she did.
She got reassigned.
No, she didn't.
She got reassigned.
I'm telling you right now. No, she didn't.
Didn't she get reassigned? I thought she did.
No, she went to go work at IBM.
Oh, that's right. That was in the afterward, right?
I'm just saying she got fired.
Yeah.
She got fired because of her outburst in the merger meeting. If Tom hadn't gotten her to have that outburst, she'd probably still have a job. Even though she landed on her feet anyways, because she's a manipulative, horrible person.
Yeah. And then I guess we should just jump into the lessons portion, general discussion. We're there now.
Well, I think the first thing that you can learn from this, never trust a boss after hours with alcohol involved.
Well, yeah, I think alcohol involved is a terrible idea.
I think that was the worst thing he did, was trust her.
I genuinely think that
alcohol and business rarely mix well.
Well, not just that, though. Just like anything that's not standard hours with a bunch of people there, I think it's a bad idea to have a one-on-one
it's
meeting.
one thing if it's an entire company party. That's one thing.
No, but
when it's a one-on-one,
I'm saying a one-on-one meeting should always be done during standard hours.
Yes, I would agree with that.
When there's other people in,
or make sure it's recorded.
Yeah, like just generally speaking, while other people are in said building is the best time.
Obviously, buddy system. Make sure somebody is watching your back while you're watching theirs.
I think the other thing was this book really, without intending to, talked about the problem with like forcing diversity. You know what I'm saying? Like they were trying to shoehorn the number of women in leadership positions, that type of, it's like you're forcing something instead of letting it happen.
Well, not only that, but they actually had a very good female worker they overlooked.
Yeah, he calls her a token the entire time, basically.
Yeah, and he acts like she's not all that good. It's like, dude, she's been doing all your dirty work for years.
Yeah.
But not dirty work. Not even dirty work. That's the wrong way to say that. All the work that is necessary for the company.
The nitty-gritty numbers.
Anytime a project needed to be killed, it was dead. Yes.
Yeah, she was the financial person, the CFO.
Very smart person.
Yeah, but the thing is, he wanted someone from like the business side.
Yeah.
The marketing side. He wanted someone to like come up with that story from there, and she's a pretty woman. Like it was kind of misogynistic the way he went about it, I think. Because
it was almost like he's like, I'm going to elevate this woman above all else, no matter what.
Right. And it was, he wanted to be the first to have that.
I did think it was interesting, and I didn't get a chance to look at the statistics. But when he's sitting down with the lawyer, and the lawyer says, listen, 5% of sexual harassment cases come from women, and 5% of women are in these higher management positions. Like,
right.
Whoa, really? Like, Is it really that even across the board that, because I wouldn't have thought that either.
It's because it's a
position of power.
It's a position of power issue. Sexual harassment.
It's a struggle issue, power struggle.
The sexual harassment thing in business, just in business in general, right? According to this book, at least,
it's a power thing.
It's a power thing. It's flexing your power. It's one of those things where when people who get into positions of power like having power. You're not just
and they like
by the
to
grace
exercise
of God
their power.
put there. Yeah. I mean, those positions attract people who like to exercise their power over people.
Right.
So one of those things is to make people squirm, show that you are in charge, and probably one of the easiest ways to do that involves sexual harassment or off-color jokes. Like things where you can't get them in trouble. They have all the power to hire and fire. So it's but like I was saying, the forced diversity that caused problems in Malaysia too. When they're trying to set up
that's not how the country operates.
Yeah, they wanted the male and female workers segregated, and then you have the lawyer there trying to be like, hey, it's 1990 here, like this is equality. And it's just like, bro, you need to realize that these other countries that you're putting these factories in,
they don't operate that way.
Yeah, they just don't operate that way. You have to be cognizant of the culture that you're working with.
Force cultures to change to meet your business.
Right.
That's not really how things work.
You need to understand the community you are in.
Right. And actually, Meredith was more willing to work with them than the lawyer was.
Right.
Even though what she did not help anybody.
Yeah, and then I think it was really important too. We've brought this up in other books that some of the Chronicles of Narnia books have kind of went with this lesson too. But the power of the first narrative, the first story people hear is more important than any correction ever. So that was so important that she jumped the gun before him.
And actually, on top of that, speaking of that exact thing, it was so shifty, them getting the narrative out to the press and the press rolling with it. Like, if you can find a biased person in the press who believes the story because of their biases, you're golden, because they will just run the story no matter what.
That's the thing, too. That reporter was bringing her own baggage into the story.
Yes.
100% her own baggage. And no matter what, especially now with social media and all of that, there's an endless supply of people with their own baggage ready to hop in and, I guess, preemptively state a story as if it's fact. And it's just not a good look, right?
Right.
Especially now with social media. Could you imagine how he would write this with social media?
Oh, it would immediately, like, somebody, if Tom Sanders had a Twitter account,
okay, I mean,
he'd be canceled overnight.
Let's just look at current events. It's timely, right? Russell Brand.
Yeah, it's a decade ago.
He is, so for things from a decade ago, right now, is being treated with the assumption of guilt. Not
innocent
innocence.
Until proven guilty should be the modus operandi of this country. Now, to be fair, Russell Brand is not from this country.
No, but YouTube is an American company,
and therefore it should adhere to. Well, I guess it really depends on how that. I don't know the background, but in my opinion, nothing's been proven yet. There's no court case, no court papers. If you can't prove it or you don't have it through the courts, I don't believe it technically counts yet. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but guess what? Here's the issue I have. YouTube, a lot of these companies, right, that are now demonetizing him and banning him in a sense. These are platforms. They're platforms.
And they don't they're not liable for what he does.
Yeah.
On or off the platform.
Yeah, but like his content is not related at all to these crimes that he is accused of. Not a single thing in his stream is related to that stuff. So what are we supposed to do? Just completely and utterly cancel people for no?
Now, to be fair, if he was doing committing those acts on stream, I think YouTube would have a better
Yeah,
prerogative to remove it.
but also it's 10 years ago.
No, I'm just saying, like, if he were to come on a live stream and like, hey, you know, like giggity
Right.
giggity, like go full Quagmire on stream or something,
And
then maybe they'd have a recompense to remove him.
Right. It's really.
But he's not
really
doing that.
shitty. It's really shitty though how he's being treated compared to like. Okay, can we just elephant in the room, right? I've heard it before. It's been admitted before in interviews. Cardi B has admitted to drugging men and robbing them.
And then you could make the same excuse for her being on the platform as you are for Russell Brand, regardless.
No,
of what
I'm saying hypocrisy right now.
Yeah,
like the same hypocrisy that is done in this book is occurring to this day still, where Cardi
you're
B,
saying the men get the brunt and the women can get a pass.
All the
That's
men,
what you're saying.
especially
Okay.
if the man is saying a position that people in power don't like and they want to silence him. It's always possible to just, he did something sexually inappropriate. We're going to demonetize him, remove him from all platforms, cancel his voice, not give him the opportunity to even defend himself or plead his case while he's still assumed innocent. He's not proven guilty yet. There's no...
And who knows if he'll ever have a day in court.
Yeah. And the thing is, at the same time, Cardi B has literally admitted to drugging men and robbing them in multiple interviews. And you don't see YouTube over here going and canceling all monetization of Cardi B content. You don't see it.
I bet if Cardi B had a Rumble account, they'd remove her monetization over that.
Maybe, I don't know, but I'm
joking, Andrew.
Dude, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, if
I actually think YouTube's been looking for I think they penalize creators personally who have moved their content or make money on Rumble.
Yeah,
I think they do. But so with Russell Brand's stuff coming out conveniently like this, whether he's guilty or not, it gives YouTube an opportunity to punish him for his Rumble contract.
Yeah, I mean, they're reaching even in their own policies right now to punish him with this weapon.
I don't think there's anything plain and clear in the language of their policies that could demonetize him for this.
Well, no,
this is clearly from the top of the board.
They're saying he's been harmful to the community. He's harmful to the community is what they're claiming. But he's not currently doing any crimes. Like, that's the...
How is he harm? Like, who in the community did he harm?
Exactly. That's the point, man. That's the point.
But here's what I will say. Some of these really big content creators play the what we'll call name game, where you name people.
Yeah.
I have never heard Russell Brand in any of his videos, and I've watched a few of them, call out another creator on the platform directly or call them out for any of their unchangeable characteristics.
What they're saying is he's hurting the community, just the community in general,
because he's existing.
Because he's existing as a sexual predator or whatever they're trying to label him. He's a bad image to the advertisers and all sorts of stuff if he's monetized.
See, I don't think.
I think it's a bunch of nonsense.
It seems like it's probably so. If he has a past history, it's prior to him getting clean.
Yeah.
It was when he was on drugs.
Right. I mean, he's been open about his past, and he's repented. He has redeemed been sober
himself for, I think, probably almost 15 years now.
Yeah.
It's been since pretty much, I think around the time he filmed Get Him to the Greek was around the time he started getting sober.
Right.
I know he took a break from Hollywood over that.
But it's one of those things, man, where they're exploiting their own. They don't do this to everybody. I've never seen a woman have this happen to her.
I can't think of an example to counter you, so I'm not going to.
So, like, this book really does have, I guess, they always talk about.
No, I take it back. There was one that I can think of now.
Who?
Where they drug stuff up from her decades-long history on YouTube. It was. Do you remember Jenna Marbles?
No.
You don't remember? She was an early big YouTube star, like PewDiePie early. And actually, she was before PewDiePie, but she used to do like face paint and stuff. If you know what I'm saying with the face paint, and so they brought up the fact that she was playing like, for lack of better terms, these older Ratchet characters.
Okay.
And they canceled her over it, and then she ended up taking her whole channel down. She was so upset about it. So no, I disagree. There have been some instances of women being taken down for not for sexual abuse, but
I'm just saying that there's well, that sounds like it was back when they were still trying to be decent. I think that clause is gone now.
She got canceled over political correctness.
Yeah. So I think they went too far with that one, because she was. Same with Russell Brand, though. They went too far with this. Yeah.
Like, I don't see how this benefits anybody. In the same way that Tom Sanders was not believed even by people he knew, because he was the man. And
right.
How could a man possibly be innocent in these situations?
This book has what I would say...
I'm not saying that Russell Brand has the same situation as Tom Sanders. Just for the record. I'm just going to flat out state that.
No.
That is not what I'm saying.
No, it is different. It is different. It's not that they're... But there's this lack of...
But Tom Sanders did get accused the same way that Russell Brand is getting accused. So there's that. There
is, though, I think, exemplified in this book, the concept of women's privilege, which is the assumption of innocence or ignorance. Like, never that they intended something. You know what I mean?
I would say that Michael Crichton, with this book, kind of preempted the Me Too situation that was going on in Hollywood.
Yeah, but that's, like, really, really preemptive, bro. This is in the 90s. Like,
this is 20 years early. This is 20 years early.
Yeah, 20 years early. That's impressive. And really, it does... Well, he said, like, if you, I don't know if it's in the back of yours, but here's what I'm just going to read this one page, because it was really interesting to me to read this page. Let me find it. He basically foretells getting more
the
severe.
Episode related here is based on a true story. Its appearance in a novel is not intended to deny the fact that the great majority of harassment claims are brought by women against men. On the contrary, the advantage of a role reversal story is that it may enable us to examine aspects concealed by traditional responses and conventional rhetoric. Mm-hmm. It does, if you're a man reading this, it really puts into perspective how some women in these cases would have felt. Yeah. But I'll keep going. However readers respond to this story, it is important to recognize that the behavior of two antagonists mirror each other, like the Rorschach ink blot. I think I said that wrong. The value of a Rorschach test lies in what it tells us about ourselves. It is also important to emphasize that the story in its present form is fiction, because allegations of sexual harassment in the workplace involve multiple conflicting legal rights, and because such claims now create substantial risk, not only for the individuals, but for the corporations. That is a really big change, I'll be honest right there. It has been necessary to disguise the real event with care. All the principals in this case agreed to be interviewed with the understanding that their identities would be concealed. I am grateful to them for their willingness to help clarify the difficult issues inherent in investigations of sexual harassment. In addition, I am indebted to a number of attorneys, human relations officers, individual employees, and corporate officials who provided valuable perspectives on this evolving issue. It is characteristic of the extreme sensitivity surrounding any discussion of sexual harassment that everyone I talk to asks to remain anonymous.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal. I think it's important to empathize with anyone in that. That's why it's important not to put yourself in those situations to begin with.
I would say probably the best attitude one can take in a situation like this is trust but verify.
Yeah. I think
trust what's being told to you, but verify it.
Yeah, I think it's really bad when people jump to assumptions either way, right off the
you shouldn't just automatically assume somebody you've trusted for decades is lying to you. So at the very least, offer them the listening, but then don't just take it as fact what they tell you. Verify it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
No, yeah, you really do need to look at it critically, no matter what side of it you're on. I mean, let's be honest.
Because people have been known to make a bad mistake in the heat of a moment. So, even if somebody has spent 30 years doing everything right, it doesn't mean that automatically they're innocent, but it also doesn't mean that they're automatically guilty.
Well, okay, let's be honest too. A lot of sociopaths out there work a crowd so that no one will ever assume that they're guilty as well.
Well, yeah, I mean
that's
a different situation.
Though. No, but I'm just saying, like,
we're not talking about Ted Bundy eating people in his basement.
No, like, just the dark triad traits in general, Chris. There's people who are like the someone who's just an abuser like that is always going to have like a really good public face.
Speaking of which, though, that was one of the most interesting parts of the book. Everybody chose to cover her up all throughout her career. Yeah. They even pointed out that she had been abusing a gay guy.
Oh yeah, multiple guys throughout her career she has abused.
Like, that is they covered it up, all of it. It's like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Because they wanted her to be a rising star. They let the sociopathic behavior continue on.
No, but like when you look at it, Chris, there is a woman's privilege when it comes to that. Like, the assumption of innocence or ignorance, but never intent, is a legitimate issue. You see that when it comes to court, like just going to court in general, right? If you're guilty of a crime, any crime, if you are a woman, you will get a lesser sentence than if you are a man every time. Every single time.
There are exceptions, but yes.
No. There's not much.
No, there are, Andrew. There are always exceptions.
Okay, there's always exceptions, but when you look at the general,
I don't want you to say across the board automatically. But,
if you look at the general trend,
in a majority of cases, that is the case.
Yeah, when you look at it at face value, left from one versus the other, it's safe to say the one will get worse. Just like if someone has a baby face and looks young versus somebody who looks old for their age. They're same age. The baby face person's going to get a lesser sentence than the person who looks older, because they will always think that they didn't know better versus the other one should have known better. There's a lot, totally different book, but there's a couple books out there that actually go into that.
Oh, like the statistics behind court cases with people that look different, like all different ways?
Yeah, just the biases that go into the sentencing on certain characteristics.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So that's why your lawyer will tell you to dress a certain way when you go in.
Well, yeah, if you look like a slob, you're going to get a lot worse of a sentence.
No, but like that's why they try to. That's why they try to make teenagers look younger. They'll put the glasses on them. They'll do whatever it takes to make them look younger or smart.
Teens spend their whole lives trying to look older, and they get to court, and it's like, nope, look younger, look younger.
Basically,
you'll get a lesser sentence, I promise.
I think the only scenario that I can personally think of where women are treated just as severely when it comes to guilt is when it comes to child abuse.
Well, maybe.
No, I'm not talking about the teachers who sleep with their students that are teenagers. I'm talking about like young children abuse. I think it's.
Sure.
I think that's looked at just as terribly for women as it is men.
I think you just stop being a person when you abuse small
children. That's what I'm saying. I think that's the one.
And people are willing to throw the book at those people.
Yeah, I think that's the one taboo that eliminates all separate treatment.
Yeah, you harm somebody like young and you're I would have no problem throwing the book at anybody.
As soon as you get into the teenage years, though, women teachers are treated vastly different than male teachers.
One of the other scenarios in this book that we haven't discussed yet, and it was such a quick glimpse at it, was when he talks about the guy in the industry who had the therapist convince the daughter that she had been abused. And then she convinced herself she was abused. And then the mom convinced herself that the daughter was abused. And then the older daughter comes back from summer camp, finds out her whole family's split apart. And then the husband never recovers from it. Because he loses his family over it.
That was actually a really big deal back when they believed in hypnotism and stuff as like a legitimate thing. There was a lot of...
they believed you could put your brain in a state where you can bring up difficult
Yeah,
things.
but then at the same time, the psychiatrist, which they kind of talk about in this book, for in that
She had her
scenario,
biases that
they
she brought
have their
into that.
biases and they bring it into those circumstances. So a lot of people were being that was a whole little craze at one point in America where
You don't think it's still
psychiatrists
going
were.
on, Andrew?
It still is, but I'm saying that there back in the day there was that craze
I'm
of
saying
accusing people
I
of
would
sexual assault.
I think there are good therapists and there are very bad therapists. And I think that the ones that are bad get away with it. And that's part of the problem.
Well, here's the problem, Chris. When it comes to therapy, everyone who goes to therapy is an extremely vulnerable person.
Right?
You are in an emotional state when you're there. You're talking about things that make you sad or whatever, and you're telling everything this person needs to know if they are a predator on how to exploit you.
Or a sociopath.
Yes, which Hannibal Lecter, as far as a show goes, is
Like, look, I'm not
there's
saying
a reason.
therapy. I'm not saying therapy as a whole is bad. I'm saying that if there's a bad actor in therapy, they'll get away with a lot.
Of course they will, because they can always say the person they're diagnosing the person. So
And then they
they
talked
have a
about the
get out of jail
system,
free card.
and then the other part was they talked about how the system had no way to reconcile these therapists who were biased because if
Yeah,
you can't, what are you going to accuse them of?
right.
And then what are you going to do with the social worker who finds a bias against the families, right?
Yeah, I mean,
They're
I
quick to go to
think
court, quick to remove kids from their families. It's like, wow, that's pretty insane, and you can't do anything about it because the system is set up to protect them.
yeah, I think counselors, therapists, social workers in general have a lot of unchecked power
Yeah,
to let their own biases run rampant. And this book does a good job of kind of showing in an older context too that it's not something new, it's just something kind of forgotten and
or
and
something
not really taken.
repackaged.
Yeah, it's not taken seriously. And I think you can see it in a lot of the trends today that it's still a huge issue
Yeah.
with just it's completely repackaged into a whole different narrative, which I don't think we want to get into in this right now.
No. I'm just saying, like, I guess I'm just saying in general, if
Yeah.
somebody is a bad actor and they're in one of these positions, they can easily manipulate someone to
And
do whatever they want them to do.
I would say this though, I think the one of the biggest dangers with the psychiatry, just the field in general, is that it's very susceptible to hot trendy to the trend of the culture, right? So if it's the craze of hypnotizing children and saying, oh,
Trying to bring up bad memories they've
bringing
suppressed.
leading them into bad memories that they suppressed of abuse from one of their parents or something, and then breaking up families when there's no evidence that shit ever happened, or if there's some other trend, if it's trending and it's a hot topic, these therapists are just as susceptible to being led to diagnose people as something when it probably isn't even that. They're just going with the whatever the main hot new thing is.
There's a thing called a recency bias. You ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Like the most recent thing you've seen or heard is the most likely thing you're gonna see in the future. So like let's say I don't know, you just learned about horoscopes, right?
Right.
And you get your horoscope read. What's the most likely thing you're gonna see in public? The
Everything that fits
prediction.
it.
Yep, exactly. So
I mean, it's
everything
you,
that fits that narrative.
the recency bias is you're looking for what you just heard.
Yes.
That's effectively what it is.
Like
you're looking
people
for
who
it.
drive down the road and say, "Oh my gosh, I see fours everywhere." Well, of
Right.
course you do.
Because you're looking for fours.
Yes.
Once you
Exactly.
you get it in your head, that's what you're looking for. You're training your eyes to see it.
Yep.
And yeah, it's I think it's something that's very dangerous. It's that whole psychosis thing
It is. It absolutely is.
where everyone just kind of gets sucked into the same thing, and you don't really know how it started or why it continued.
So, What lessons can we learn from this book? I know we've already kind of delved into that a little bit, but
Honestly, though, the main lesson is that the first narrative is so powerful.
it's very hard to
Powerful.
dismantle the first narrative that's being spread.
Yeah, I mean, we can say legally you are innocent until proven guilty, right? We can say that.
But it's
We
hard to
believe it.
disprove a
You and
narrative.
I believe that very strongly.
Oh, I do.
Okay.
I absolutely do.
And we wouldn't call for someone to be fired or canceled or whatever it is just off of accusations without evidence. Now, here's the thing. The court of public opinion is the most fickle thing on the planet.
It
And
absolutely is.
everyone assumes if they have any reason to, right? Like it serves their interests to just say you're a bad person at the time, or they just see that everyone believes it, so they don't want to be the other person sticking up for you because it brings heat on them that they don't want. There's peer pressure, right? The peer pressure is so strong with that first narrative that you are, even though you are innocent until proven guilty legally in America, you're you're basically stuck trying to prove your innocence and not be fired from your job.
Oh yeah.
No matter what it is, right? And if you're not American, I feel super super bad for you because nowhere else has the same innocent until proven guilty concept. Not nearly as strong.
Oh yeah.
So,
No, that's absolutely accurate. It's written into our Bill of Rights.
yeah.
So
Oh,
you have the right to be tried by a group of your peers.
do you think there's another one that's just as big as that's bigger than that one though, as far as lessons go? Because
Um, I think you could say never trust a lawyer who is not on your side, no matter
I
what they
think
tell you.
everyone knows not to trust a lawyer, Chris. They're mercenaries. Um,
Um, I thought it was interesting that while he was lying to his one production line because of the merger, his other production line was lying to him because of pretty much the same thing.
yeah.
He was lying to his buddy Eddie about why all the reviews were going on, and I was like, "Man, you are just as
Well,
bad
he
with
wasn't
this."
allowed to tell him.
I know, I know, I
There's
know.
a difference, but he wasn't deviating from the.
He wasn't.
Also,
No,
also, there's no evidence that they actually were going to sell it because it went against everything he wanted for the company.
he did not want it, and he fought it tooth and nail and ended up winning that one. I think they kept it right.
I'm assuming they kept it because the other lady actually agreed with him. So,
Right, right.
um,
Yeah, Stephanie Kaplan, right?
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, she was an ally to him the whole book.
Yes,
That was a
that can
cool.
be. It's a good ally that's not like super important. It's important but not important at the same time. So I think just leave it as a nugget if
I
someone
thought
needs it.
the other thing that was interesting was when they talk about, because he's got that mentor of his who's like constantly telling him
Right.
things in riddles, which that's just the way that Michael Crichton likes to write. He's got this character who's
Well,
super
yeah.
smart, but the main thing there was like he helped Tom break free of his shell and figure out what exactly, because like he says somewhere in the middle, he's like, Tom, you're playing their game, you need to play your game,
Right.
play to your strengths, especially when you're going through the crisis of your lifetime.
Right.
Always play to your strengths. If you're playing if your strength is technical expertise, why are you playing a political game with them?
Right.
So
I think
like that's what he ended up proving everything with. He's proved that she was the one that screwed it all up using his strengths. And I think that was important to point out. Like, hey, if you're playing outside of your strengths, either get help or play to your strengths.
yeah. No, that's a good lesson too. I do think that this is primed for a movie, a new movie to be made.
Actually, the movie they made, it rated pretty well.
No, but I'm saying like given
Like an updated modern one.
yeah, given the way the world has changed since then, I think it would actually be a really exciting script for a director that actually cared about the story to make something pretty good. Because let's look at it. You got Apple, the Apple VR, you have the Oculus, you got whatever other ones there are, right? You got all of these different VR sets coming out with the concept of the virtual workspace, and you got social media adding a whole new dynamic. You just got done with the Me Too era, where I mean, a false accusation is just as powerful as a real one. So
a false accusation carries as much weight as
yeah,
a real one.
It's a weapon. It really is a weapon.
And some people get exonerated, but a lot of times you never recover.
You never actually recover, because it's no different than when they issue a correction to a news article. Most people
they just put
don't
a little
see
edit.
it.
They just put an edit like days later.
Well,
when in reality,
what
they should be required to do, if you have to issue a correction, it should be front page. We screwed up. Here's the correction.
And I personally, I think social media platforms like Twitter or Facebook or whatever.
There's no penalty for cancel culture, even if it's wrong.
No, I'm not talking about cancel culture. Okay, I'm talking about for the news articles that get a correction or redacted. I personally think that it should be in the algorithm that if you saw this article, regardless,
you would see the correction.
Regardless of if you clicked on it or whatever, it went through your timeline and subliminally influenced your thought process.
That's a great idea.
It should be highlighted and put at the top of your news feed the next time you log in.
When if somebody publishes a correction.
Yes, it should be, hey, correction, they were wrong. And that's the only way to fix it, because it doesn't get shared the same.
The only thing I can see negative with that is
shames the shit out of you for being wrong.
Somebody's gonna play the game and issue a fake correction so it appears at the top of your news feed.
You can be punished for it. It will.
I'm just saying, people always figure out a way to abuse these systems. I think it's a great idea. I definitely think that should be the case. If something gets published and it's especially
I'm talking
if
about
it's
for legit new like publishers, legit publishers,
I understand.
mainstream media. And then show them. I'm not saying like the average person can do it. I'm just saying, like, if you are listed as a publisher, which means you're liable for your content, right?
Yeah.
That means you should have this correction mechanism.
If they're paying for the Twitter Business Blue or whatever it is, it's like $1,000 a month. They should have the requirement, especially if they're a news organization.
It's their duty, technically. It is their civic duty.
Issue corrections when they get things wrong.
It's also their legal duty.
And Twitter should reward them for issuing the corrections by elevating those posts so that people who saw the wrong story got the right story.
Yeah.
I agree. No, that's a great idea. I might clip that and put that as a clip. That's a good idea.
But definitely though would be a really good movie if brought up to modern technology and circumstances.
The last thing I want to touch on, and I think this is really important. Tom Sanders was told multiple times that if he lost the suit or the suit went public, he would never work in the industry again.
Yeah.
And that is such a shame that that's the way things operate, but that is a fact of life.
Well, that's the court of public opinion, man.
If you try to take something public that was behind closed doors and don't settle, most likely you won't be working there anymore because that's too much of a liability for them at that point. And you probably can't find a job in that industry ever again.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to take on the liability of what happened to you.
But then can we just point out the irony of the one reporter being leaked everything so she could make it public? I'm just saying the irony there, right?
She was on the hook for slander in court.
Yeah.
Because it was really easy to prove who she was talking about.
Oh, yeah, but also it's very deniable. So
Yeah, exactly.
How would you rate this?
The book?
Yeah.
I really liked it. This is a 5 for me. I never felt like I was bored. Like, it was very good.
I
like his writing style a lot.
It was good. It was very good writing style. I'll say it was very good.
I can't go lower than a 4. I can't go lower than a 4.
It's maybe a little gimmicky with the technology, because it's technology. It doesn't age well in that, like, the subject matter outside of the,
I don't know, with the production lines. Like, it's very easy to okay, imagine an iPhone is built in Malaysia today.
No, I
in a factory.
understand.
You could scale it to modern. You
I
could easily do
understand.
it.
I'm saying though that the when they're talking about the tech itself, those conversations are a bit
Outdated.
very outdated.
But he doesn't spend too much time on that.
No,
I
I
never felt
know.
like he spent too much
I'm
time.
not.
And
I'm
as an
not trying.
engineer, I liked that.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to nitpick too badly there. I'm just saying. I would be inclined to give it a 4 just because of that though. Of
Okay, I mean,
how rude.
You're
Yeah.
entitled to your opinion.
I think as far as his writing style, the pacing of the book, the interesting twist of like what the perspective is in this book, all of that makes it a strong 4.
I loved how the lawyer asks Tom, "How did you know that she wasn't into it?" He goes, "She coughed."
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
I was like, I had to think about that. I was like, why would that be? And I was like, I guess if you were like in the heat of the moment, you really wanted somebody, you're probably not like taking yourself out of it by coughing. I guess.
I don't
Maybe.
know. I feel like that's reaching just a tad.
I feel like it was, but I also like maybe it was just the way that she was acting. Like maybe that was the one thing that made him realize like everything about the scene was wrong.
I think it's just. I think you gotta look at that scene from a perspective of he just needed one thing
To throw him off.
to throw him off at all
recognize-
because it wasn't the cough itself. It was the whole. It was the cough paired with all the other like
All the other evidence.
Yeah.
Of his own. What's the right word? His own sensory evidence to recognize the situation was orchestrated and or she wasn't like something was going on ulterior to what was the motive of what was presented.
It was just too much of a setup.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would give it a 4. I think it's very well written. I think it's a very well paced book too. You'll read it quickly. That's the thing I think everyone needs to realize is this book is a very fast read.
Despite how long it is.
Yeah, I mean I think there's more blank page in here than I don't think the actual page count is accurate for.
If you were to compare word counts between this book and another book with the same amount of pages, you'd probably find more words in another book.
Yeah.
Is that what
I don't think? Yeah, I don't think the word count is very reflective of that 400.
But it is also just a book that you can read cover to cover very quickly, just because of how it's written.
And I'll say this too: if you do need more time to read it, it is structured very nicely for taking breaks.
Yes,
because there is constantly a scene shift. So in a very busy day, if you're a stay-at-home mom or whatever, and you're constantly having to put the book down for doing something around the house, or you're just constantly going back and forth between some other project, you can read a quick interaction within like I don't even know how many minutes, but it's fast. You can just knock out a couple interactions in a short period of time, put the book down, go do something else, come back, do the same thing again. Which I found myself doing often. So
yeah. I found it nice that anytime I needed to put the book down, there was like the end of a chapter right there on the precipice of where I was. So that was nice.
It was like one more page. That's all I need to read, and then I can set it down. Perfect. You're never finding yourself halfway through one and being like,
Right. So here's what I want to end with. So I gave it a 5, gave it a 4. So we're gonna average it out to 4.5. But
which I feel more actually I could give it a 4.5. But we didn't. I thought we didn't want to do halvesies.
No, I don't know. I said it averages out to a 4.
No. But I'm saying I could have given it a 4.5. So I'm good with that.
Okay. I do want to remind people, like, we are on the new channel. Mm-hmm. We're on youtube.com/@printednpressed because we couldn't put an ampersand in there.
Yeah.
Which here I'll take you there right now. Second thing, what book's coming up after this one, Andrew? We did make a little shift in what we're covering.
We
next.
did make a shift. Our next book is going to be The Hobbit by Tolkien.
Yep, The Hobbit by Tolkien.
We're putting that one next so we can kind of compare the C.S. Lewis children's books versus the Tolkien.
The single Tolkien children book.
Yeah.
Although no, I take it back. There is one other Tolkien children book, the Tom Bombadil book.
Oh yeah.
That's technically a children's book, I believe too.
I mean, The Hobbit is technically part of Lord of the Rings anyway, so it's like it's technically
it's like a prologue to Lord of the Rings.
It's a prologue. It you know what? It grooms future Lord of the Rings readers at a young age.
All right, but anyways, make sure you guys are subscribed to our new channel, Printed and Pressed.
Yeah.
We will be returning with a actual real Krillcast live video next week.
Mm-hmm.
Probably discussing the Xbox leaks. Probably. I don't know. We'll see. But as far as this channel goes, I think we're going to start putting out on our community tab the next book. So look out here. You'll see probably the next, if you're not part of our Goodreads or our book club, we'll probably also put the next book in the community tab so you can find it. And maybe we'll put some polls out there. I don't know yet. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on.
We're gonna have fun with it, you guys. Join our book club. You can also find us at Printed and Pressed on Twitter as well. So it's
and
Printed and Pressed because same issue.
It'd be nice if we could get to 10 followers on Rumble, because once we get 10, we'll get a custom URL. As of right now, to find us, it's rumble.com/c/c-40000490.
So
that is awful.
Just please, double dip, subscribe, follow us
everywhere.
On both places, all three places.
Especially since 44 people tuned into this apparently on Rumble.
Yeah, we also we're also findable on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Amazon Podcast. So
we're getting all the previous podcasts uploaded on there too. So make sure you guys.
So if you don't like seeing our beautiful faces, you can always hide that from your view on the other platforms.
But yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed this. I waited to the end to disclose all of our various networks you can follow. See how I did that with the pun intended. And we don't have a Meredith Johnson working here, so no worries about that kind of a situation occurring. If you do want to read the book, you can go on Amazon, like we said in the beginning. It's actually more expensive to get it on Kindle than it is to get it on the mass market paperback.
Yeah, and it's important to point out Audible, it's free on Audible, or is it not available?
No. There was something I was gonna say. So the Audible version, if you click on it, I'm not going to because I don't know what information will come up, but
yeah,
the Audible version is abridged.
Oh,
it's like 4 hours. It should be a little bit longer than that, but they haven't. It's only the only version is an abridged version. I was like, nope, ain't gonna listen to that.
Well, this book for the mass production paperback, it's less than $8 right now.
For a used copy, $1.25.
Right. So this is a very affordable book if you're interested in it.
Brand new, $3.
And it's very enjoyable.
For collectible from $2.99.
Oh.
See, this is not Michael Crichton's books have sold so well, you can pretty much find them anywhere.
Yeah.
And this is a good book.
You definitely find them at a lot of garage sales.
We're probably gonna. Is that where you found it?
No, but I've seen his books at garage sales plenty of times. So
I think you can't really go wrong reading a Michael Crichton book. So, anyways, as always, I am Chris,
and I'm Andrew,
and I'm Will, and we will see you
on the next Printed and Pressed.
See y'all later.